Which Side Podcast is a proud member of the Which Side Media Collective.
As you may know, during the Trump inauguration, over 200 of our comrades were arrested, and all of them really need our support around their legal funds. It costs a lot of money to help defend these people, so we are releasing a t-shirt with the amazing action against Richard Spencer, the fucking neo-Nazi, getting punched in the face with the slogan, "Make Racist Afraid Again," because we as a community need to band together and refuse to normalize this bullshit behavior. So go get your shirt, let everyone know that you won't normalize this bullshit behavior, and help support our comrades that desperately need those funds.
Just head on over to whichsidecollective.org and pick one up now.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
This is episode 218.
Yeah, we talk with Smaragda from Ban Animal Trading South Africa. But first, here's our side. With more and more protests every day and government oppression at an all-time high, it's important that we protect ourselves and keep our community safe from government surveillance. Info about you and your activities can be used against you, your friends, your allies, and whether those activities are legal or anti-legal. With modern technology becoming more and more common, there's a number of things that we can do to protect ourselves. I'm going to go over different ways that we can protect ourselves, from sending text messages to searching on the internet, browsing the internet, and just basic online security. One of the easiest things to do is to just leave your phone home during protests. There was a recent It's Going Down article that I'll link to in the show notes. But essentially, if someone asked you if you'd be willing to keep a tracking device on you 24/7, would you choose to? Because essentially that's what a lot of people do, is they choose to have their cell phone on them 24/7, and it's essentially a tracking device that can be used by the government when they need to.
There's a pretty known case here in Utah where some activists were arrested for using their cell phones in an action. Pretty easy to keep track of and get that information.
Definitely. But I know that we'll not always be without our cell phones. We are in an age where technology is important and we like to have it at our fingertips at any time. So one way when sending text messages to help make things more secure is by using an app called Signal. It's actually built by an anarchist named Moxie Marlinspike and a company, Open Whisper Systems. It's peer-reviewed and it's easy to use. It just works. It's open source. Essentially what it does is it sends end-to-end encryption and SMS on your smartphone. You'd use it like you'd normally use any other text messaging app. If somebody doesn't have Signal and you send a message to them, it will still send them a message through a normal SMS, and they'll get it just like a normal text message. However, if they do have Signal, it will send it to them through their Signal app, and they'll receive it, and both ends will be encrypted.
Does text messaging rates apply? Does it count as a text message, or does it count as data?
I don't believe it counts as a text message if you're using it within app.
In the app. Okay.
Obviously, it's important that you don't send super sensitive information over it. It's the phone security, not the apps. So you want to make sure that you're using basic common security culture dealing with anything.
I just downloaded it for the first time, and it is amazingly easy to download and set up.
And it's doing all the stuff on the back end that you don't think about when you would normally think about things like PGP, which is something you can use for emails.
I just sent you an end-to-end encrypted text message.
Thanks, Jeremy. I'll have to see what it says. But you won't know because it's encrypted. If you're sending emails, a thing that you can use is called GPG or PGP. It's a little bit daunting for newcomers, but it's essentially does the same thing that Signal does, and it encrypts on both ends. There's something called a public key and a private key, and a whole bunch of stuff that will probably not make any sense if you're not very technical, but that's okay. That's why there's things like Signal that just make it easy. You don't have to think about it. If you're searching online, a lot of people use Google. Another alternative to Google is DuckDuckGo. It's also open source and peer reviewed, and it's just an easy change from Google to protect your privacy.
So why would I not want to use Google?
Because Google actually records everything that you search, and then they use it to market towards you.
Motherfuckers.
If you're going to be browsing the internet, you can use something called Tor. It's easy to install and use, and it's good to use to autonomize connection info for a specific account. Another thing to do is to have strong passwords. Each password should be unique to the account that it's on, and you shouldn't reuse them. You want to make sure that there are at least 15 characters and a mix of upper and lower case, symbols, and numbers. And I know that everyone's probably already like, well, fuck.
Yeah.
But it is just something that we should keep in mind. And there's a vulnerability and your password leaks out in some way or another. It can only be used on that one account, and it can't be used to get into your banking information or anything else. Last thing's just account privacy. You shouldn't use usernames that are related to your other accounts. Usernames should be unique to the account, and there should be no info linking back to you. You don't want to give out information that could connect your personal identity to your account, and names, usernames, location, dates, events, activities, etc. that can all be linked back to you. I honestly just managed to get all this device by doing a little bit of my own research. I highly recommend that you do your own research on the subjects that I talked about, because I am no expert.
This is the spot in the show where we're going to beg you for some money. It's an ad. Let's get through it together. We would really appreciate it if you head on over to whichsidecollective.org and help support the show. And in return, we'll send you some sweet shit. And you get to pick that shit that we send you. It's kind of how it works. You can pick a patch. You can pick t-shirts, hoodies, totes. We have lots of stuff. We have zines. So head on over to whichsidecollective.org. Give us your money. We'll give you some shit. And we'll all be happy.
While you're checking things out, be sure to check us out on social media. Just go to whichsidepodcast.com, click on the social tab, and you can find all the social media accounts that we have.
And if you're looking for a super simple way to help out the show, just go rate and review us on your favorite podcast aggregator. iTunes is the most popular. It helps us out the most. It just makes it easier for people to find the show. So if you have a second, go rate and review us.
Give us that 5 stars. Want to hear your voice saying fuck shit damn at the end of an episode? Just dial 424-ANARCHY and leave a message. That's 424-262-7249.
So what is your origins into animal rights advocacy?
I am part of an organization, basically head up an organization that is called Ban Animal Trading South Africa. And we are an animal rights organization, so not animal welfare. Obviously, the two do go hand in hand, but the goals are the same. But we don't want bigger cages or more water or more food. We don't want animals in cages. That's basically where we are. So our activism is centered around, bringing news to people, telling them what is happening. So basically, educate. I don't like educating. It sounds as if people don't know what's going on, but as if people are dumb. It's like such a horrible. But basically, showing the people what is happening to animals in South Africa, and most of the time they're really not aware of what is happening, and they're mostly shocked when they, find out what it is that we are fighting against. So basically, that's where we come from. We have protests. Our protests are there to educate the public. We hand out flyers to tell them exactly why we're protesting. We try and use social media. We try and work against government, basically, so that, we can save animals. And that's basically what Ban Animal Trading does.
Do you remember what your first step into activism was? Like what your first thing that you partook in was?
Yes, I do. It was actually against vivisection in South Africa. And it was against one of the universities in Johannesburg, where they still use animals for testing, for medical reasons and so on. And it was called, the organization that I joined at that time was called SAPS, South Africans Against Vivisection. And they hired, at the time, this was many, many years ago, more than about 30 years ago, they hired a bus, those open buses at the top.
Mm-hmm.
And we went to the university and drove around, and we were screaming and shouting and carrying on, which is basically not what we do today. But I don't know, I'm finding it really hard to, understand what kind of protest we need to have to make people think, actually. Because whether we scream and shout, that doesn't happen because then we're extreme. If we quiet, that also doesn't happen because the message is not coming across strong enough. So I don't know anymore. I must say it's a bit of a difficult situation. But I think it's an area that we need to look at in different ways. So we need to do the legal aspects. We need to look at the laws, and we need to protest and just do whatever we can to get the message out.
I like that you brought up the idea that you don't know when protesting is going to be like truly effective. And I've kind of fallen into that over the years as well. And in a lot of ways, I feel like a lot of the protests that we organize and partake in do a lot more for ourselves than for the movement in general. Because it makes us feel like we're actually doing something, right? And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think it's good to recognize that when that is the case.
You're absolutely right. We often say, and I think we do the protests obviously for ourselves. So we often say that, we go to a protest and we come back and we have sore jaws from all the laughing. And I think that's okay, because we deal with so many terrible issues, even at protests. I mean, we've got people screaming and shouting. And I have to tell you this, we had a protest at Huntex, which is a huge thing that we normally have in South Africa once a year. And they have all the people from over the world and in South Africa getting together, and then they kind of exhibit, all the wonderful tools that you can kill animals with while you laugh and smile about it, because it's just absolutely so awesome. Such a bonding experience for fathers and their sons. And we had a protest once, and there was this enormous guy. He was really enormous. And he's not enormous from being a vegan. He was just enormous from meat. And he was walking, and we were protesting, and he was actually watching us, and he fell over one of the signs that prohibited us from entering. So it was just a huge crash. It was hilarious. I know we shouldn't have laughed, but it's one of those moments where something is very serious, but it just lights up the whole situation. So yes, we do a lot of things for ourselves, and I think it's okay. We have to have a smile and a laugh now and again, because what we're dealing with is not fun in any way.
So you mentioned your first activist activity was about 30 years ago.
Yeah.
That is a tremendously long time to maintain being active, and that commends a tremendous amount of respect. But how do you do it? How do you maintain being active for that long without getting burned out? I don't think that I'm special in any way, and I think that all of us get burnt out, and it has happened to me. And so I'll take a day or two off, or I'll go on holiday for 2 weeks or whatever, and then come back, because I don't really see the point in working yourself into such a state that you actually can't work for 2 or 3 months after that, because then you're of no use. And I think we need to recognize that we have to pace ourselves. Otherwise, we're so few that try to make a difference. And we can't actually lose any of these individuals along the way. So, I've got awesome friends. I've got wonderful people who support, and I support them. We're a good group of people, and Ban Animal Trading specifically, we're a good group of people supporting one another and giving one another space when we see, that things are not going well. But yeah, you can't look at all the sadness and heartache every day and get angry every day without burning out at some point. I think that's a huge lesson that a lot of people need to learn, is that people do need their space, and that it's okay if they don't show up to certain actions, or certain types of activities aren't suited for their personality type or doesn't fit them well, right?
I absolutely agree with you. Some people are good at shouting and screaming, and they love protests. Other people are good at writing blogs, and we need to use them for that. Other people are good at putting legislation together. So we need to use people where their strengths are for the movement, to actually grow the movement. In South Africa, we often look at, how things are done in the US and in the UK and so on. But our situation is so completely different here that we have to, challenge a few things and look at things in a different way. because of the culture that we live in and so on. And we need to use the people in South Africa to help us change the laws for the animals in South Africa.
When you look back over the years, what has been like one of the biggest wins for you inside activism?
You know what? I don't think we've had any major wins. I think we've had small wins. For example, that we have well, they're not regulations yet. It's just a document that has been compiled by government and so on, which now they call it for the use and care of animals for scientific purposes. I mean, really use and care, but anyway. And in that document, they have now recognized animals as sentient beings. Now, I think it's a great step, but I don't think that they realize what that means, because even though they see animals as sentient beings, they still test on them. I don't know what as I sit here, I can't really tell you that we've had major wins. We haven't. They're all small little things that make us all excited.
I think it's important to celebrate the small victories too.
Oh, yes.
Oh, no, absolutely. Because if we don't, we are actually just going to die. We'll have no hope. We'll have no anything. Mm-hmm. So the small victories actually, in the end, together make up big ones. So, yeah, I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you.
I mean, but getting the legal recognition of a sentient creature is actually pretty big in my book. Like, I could never imagine that happening here in the U.S.
Really? So not even in a document, that they're going to try and push through as a regulation so that everybody needs to adhere to it. Because at the moment, if I think of that specific document, it's voluntary. So all the places that use animals for the purpose of testing don't have to sign the document. They don't have to adhere to it. So I don't know. I suppose you're right. It is a big step. But I don't understand that. I don't think people understand what it actually means. We, for example, have a political party in South Africa that they've also added, and saying that they recognize animals as sentient beings, yet they are the ones who advocate and who allow farmers to use gin traps for so-called troubled animals who catch their sheep and so on. So, it's just, that doesn't make sense.
I think it's a huge step to be able to agree on terminology, though, right? Where if you're agreeing that they're sentients, then there's still work to be done, of course, but at least we're acknowledging that they have a will to live, basically, and that
Absolutely.
Will to live is going to be the basis for moving forward.
Absolutely. And you know what? I think the fact that the word is in there already is a change it's a mindset change, because all of a sudden when we say animals are sentient beings, we can't talk about them as it anymore. We now have to refer to them as he and she. And I think the vocabulary is really, really important because it informs the way we think about animals. So, yes, I have to agree with you. I think that's a pretty big step. Oh, there's another one. For elephants in South Africa, we have norms and standards for elephants that state that elephants may not be exported or sold to other countries for entertainment purposes. And that was a great step. That's a huge step, because at the moment, we have a circus here called Brian Boswell's Animal Circus, and he has elephants that he had to retire, basically, to his own zoo, because all of us were making such a noise, and some activists actually filmed one of his workers hitting one of the elephants. So he retired these elephants. Now they're costing a lot of money for him to, look after and so on, and he's now tried to sell them to a zoo in Dubai, and it's been denied. Now, obviously, he's taking the specific government department to court and so on. But yes, that's huge for us. That's huge.
So, is there anything that is currently going on inside the South African animal rights community that you wish would change?
I think within the animal rights community, I think we are all very excited about the fact that people in South Africa are listening. There's nothing really that I think we would change. We would want things to happen quicker, but I think that's that's a worldwide phenomenon. It's not, only South Africa. So I think we're absolutely, things are looking good for us. Wherever we go to restaurants, and 2-3 years ago, this wasn't the case at all. There are vegan options for us. People are slowly waking up. The protests are getting bigger. People are voicing their opinion. So I think I don't know that there's anything that I'd like to change. It would be great if we could have more people working or volunteering for animal rights organizations. That would be great, because we're not a big enough group. There are not enough people doing this. And also I think the fact that we are a little bit, and I'm sure this is the same worldwide, is that we a little bit, we struggle to work together, which is a pity.
Yeah, I think that's a problem worldwide, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a pity. It's almost like everybody wants the light to shine on them when it's not about them, but it's about the animals. But yeah, it's just, I suppose when they're humans and humans together and they feel emotional about things and they all have strong personalities because they support a certain cause, obviously there are going to be problems. It's just the way it is, I suppose.
So what's been the biggest change over the last 30 years inside the animal rights movement, or just in veganism in general for you in South Africa?
I've just seen, the movement growing when it comes to veganism, the movement growing, which is absolutely wonderful to see. We have so many food options now. It's amazing. Supermarkets, restaurants, wherever we go, there are options, vegan options for people. It's still in the minority, but it's getting there. So it's becoming a strong movement. It's becoming almost like a mainstream movement, which is really, really good. And it gets us all excited here, and we've got lots of vegan restaurants specifically opening. And I think, yes, when we talk vegan specifically, that is exactly what is happening here.
We always love to talk about food. What kind of things have they brought?
What kind of things have they?
Yeah, over the years, what kind of new things have they come out with?
Yeah, we're a huge country for milk and cheese and blah, blah, blah. But now we've got options when it comes to, for example, any milk. We can find a lot of milk here. We can find different yogurts. We can find, we've got fries. We've got, there's most of the stuff is available here. Obviously, we don't have the big choices that you have in America and so on, but it's coming our way slowly. So we actually have a choice. There are many shops that are opening that specifically cater for vegans, which is wonderful. And we support them. We need to support these places. Even though at the beginning, probably they're not as great as they should be, they need support so that they can carry on with, spreading the message of veganism and so on. No, we everything is going okay-ish for us here. Our problem is with wild animals specifically, and by wild animals, I mean captive bred and wild captive bred animals. So basically farming lions and, that kind of thing is a huge problem in South Africa. Absolutely huge. We've just had 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting with the Department of Environmental Affairs where they want to, as societies, they have to put a quota in place for lion bones, lion skeletons. And they never followed the process. So there was no stakeholder meetings before. There was just one. And all of a sudden now they're calling for people to put in submissions and so on. But the tricky thing is that they basically said, okay, it used to be a free for all. As many lion bones, you can export as many lion bones as you want to. Now they've put a cap on it that they decided kind of on their own. 800 full lion skeletons can be exported per year. But if you count the individual bones in one skeleton, the 800 skeletons that they're now proposing that we export per year is actually more than the number of bones we've exported in the last 3 years.
Oh, wow.
So it sounds, it's been a free-for-all. Now we're saying only 800 lion skeletons. But actually it's more than we've exported in the last 3 years.
So is that also being used for medicinal purposes?
Yes, lion bones are used for medicinal purposes in China. And also the problem that we have here is we have tiger farms. and it's illegal, to export tiger bones and so on. But because we have no regulations or no checks in place in South Africa, tiger bones are exported with lion bones, and we have no way to check that those are, we don't have any checks in place.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we don't know whether the lion bones that are being exported are from wild lions or from captive bred lions, because we also don't have those measures in place. So basically, it's still a free-for-all.
Wow.
Yes. Sometimes we sit down and we think, oh gosh, I don't know. It's a big money thing, obviously, for South Africa, because we make huge money out of our wildlife. We're farming rhinos, we're farming lions, and farming tigers, and basically whatever. And here you can sell. You know that in South Africa you can keep a tiger as a pet.
Really?
But you cannot keep a lion as a pet. Because lions are indigenous, so you need a permit, which you'll never get. But because tigers are exotic animals in South Africa, you don't need a permit. And that makes no sense.
Huh. Yeah,
they're just
crazy.
As dangerous. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So we don't have people walking tigers in the street, but we've got them keeping them in the smallest backyards you can imagine.
What's the poaching, I guess, scene like there compared to like other parts of Africa?
Poaching, obviously, in South Africa is huge. And, it's because we support nationally in South Africa, within the borders of South Africa, we are allowed to sell rhino horn. I don't know to whom, because we don't use it, but you're allowed to sell rhino horn and so on. And basically, what we all know is that the legal trade always promotes poaching in a way. So I think poaching with us, especially when it comes to rhino, we have to have people look after the rhino, like they have to have their own security guards. And not only the wild rhino, the captive bred lions are also now in danger of poaching, because people use their body parts for medicinal purposes in Africa. So the captive bred lions are basically, is a sitting duck kind of the right word to say? I don't know. But they're sitting ducks because they sit in cages, and people, hack them to pieces, use their paws and their heads for medicinal purposes. So, and not only that, now we have the donkey problem. So a sanctuary that rescued a whole lot of donkeys from an auction last week now have to have security guards at the sanctuary to make sure that the donkeys aren't stolen to get their hides to China. It's sometimes really devastating when we look what is going on around us.
Well, thank you so much for being on. How can people get in contact and find out what's going on and more importantly get involved?
They basically, at the moment, we use Facebook as our, it's where we kind of put everything on. All our details are there. All our contact details are there. And if, for example, people want to not be, maybe they have a different cause that they want to kind of support and so on, they're not ban animal trading, they're welcome to contact us, and we will put them in contact with the right people. That's not a problem at all. We'll, help them find a sanctuary. If they want to join another group or whatever, they're welcome to contact us, and we'll put them in contact with the right.
Which Side Podcast is hosted and produced by Jordan Halliday and Jeremy Parkin of the Which Side Media Collective, with web design by Jordan Halliday and sound design by Jeremy Parkin. Booking by Mari Halliday. Go to whichsidecollective.org to check out the other shows in the collective. As always,
hi, this is Marsha Brady from California. Fuck shit damn.